Hi class. For the My Favorite Brain Part assignment, I chose to look at the cerebellum. While originally looking at this assignment, I had no idea which part of the brain I wanted to choose. All of the various parts of the brains are so critical and crucial to day-to-day life within humans, it was so hard to choose. However, I realized that I have a much stronger connection to the cerebellum, which I will go in depth at the end of this presentation. However, let's start off with the history of the cerebellum. The name cerebellum is a diminutive of cerebrum, which means brain. Its literal translation is little brain. Early autonomists like Aristotle and Herophilus were able to distinguish the cerebellum. However, it was not until the Renaissance that it was described anatomically more in depth. Moreover, the 19th century was when the first functional insights were documented. Now, what exactly does the cerebellum do? The cerebellum is the part of the brain that controls and coordinates voluntary movements. Examples of this are coordination, balance, and even posture. As you can see on the image on the left, this woman would be unable to do this stunning yoga pose if her cerebellum was harmed or impaired. Here we will see where the cerebellum is located. The cerebellum is located in the back, bottom half of your brain, right next to the brainstem, as you can see pictured here in yellow. Now there are three lobes to the cerebellum: the anterior lobe, which is in yellow, the posterior lobe, which is in green, and the folliculonodular lobe, which is in blue, in between the anterior and posterior lobes. There are two major components of the cerebellum: the cerebellular cortex, which is the thin layer of heavily folded tissue that contains most of the nerve cells in the cerebellum, and the cerebellular nuclei, which is found deep within the cerebellum. The nerve cells of the cerebellular nuclei are primarily involved in sending information from the cerebellum. Now, what happens exactly if your cerebellum is harmed? First, we must address how a cerebellum can become harmed. Some common things that can injure the cerebellum are brain injury, tumor, infections, various diseases such as Parkinson's, and even excessive alcohol use. Once injured, it impacts movement, balance, and sometimes even vision. If you suffered from a harmed cerebellum, you would possibly have trouble walking down the street to class, sitting in your chair and being able to do homework. Very simple day-to-day things would be impacted. Now, there are some conditions that can be caused by serious damage to the cerebellum. Ataxia is consistent uncoordinated movements and trouble with fine motor tasks. Dystonia is muscle spasms, tremors, which are muscle contractions, and vertigo, which is the sensation of spinning. However, there has also been research for the cerebellum's connection to other parts of the brain that can play a possible role in the following conditions: autism spectrum disorder, dyslexia, anxiety disorders, and even schizophrenia. Now, why did I choose the cerebellum? I chose the cerebellum for two specific reasons. One, hand-eye coordination, and two, reflexes, both of which the cerebellum control and regulates. Both of these characteristics are critical in playing water polo, which I played all throughout high school and continue to play at the club level here at UC. Additionally, I am a goalie, so hand-eye coordination and reflexes is critical for me to perform well in the water. Moreover, I myself unfortunately had suffered a concussion while playing and saw what happens firsthand when your cerebellum is injured. I'll never forget getting out of the pool and being unable to walk in a straight line, feeling like the room was spinning, and even sitting down, unable to sit up straight. Now, if I haven't convinced you already why the cerebellum should be your favorite part of the brain, as it controls almost all of your involuntary movements, here's one last quick fact to sum it up. The cerebellum accounts for only 10% of your brain. However, it accounts for 50% of the nerve cells in your brain. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening. I hope the cerebellum is now your favorite part of the brain.